It's night 28, and after last tribal council, Nicola and Kiana chat by the fire pit. Kiana asks her how she's doing, considering she was blindsided last vote, and Nicola says she's doing alright. She didn't realize people were voting Telly, but it's part of the game to experience a blindside at least once in the game. Kiana tells Nicola not to worry about their one-on-one relationship though. If anything, Telly going betters their odds of reaching Final 3 together since they both might find interest in keeping each other. Nicola tells Kiana she is fully committed to get to Final 3 with her. Of course, she has her eyes set out on Allison because she voted her last vote. Allison also has a lot of friends on the jury that she hasn't pissed off. Kiana lets Nicola know that no matter what, the two of them can stick together now, and if she wants Allison gone, they can take her out. Meanwhile, Allison and Ryan talk together. Allison is very exhausted from the living conditions but is pushing through these last few days. She just cannot wait to properly eat soon. Ryan tells her they need to keep their head in the game still. They just made a huge move on Telly, which increases their chances of winning drastically. This is why they need to think about the other person who just made that move, too. That being Kiana. If they take her to Final 3, the Telly move might just be void. But, if they take her out, Nicola will sit in Final 3 without being able to claim that move, meaning she could receive less respect from the jury. Allison knows and tells Ryan he doesn't need to tell her these things. She sees the best path forward and already planned on voting Kiana out tomorrow night. They need to ensure they win immunity and that Kiana doesn't. Kiana then interrupts their conversation, telling them that Nicola is taking things pretty well for the most part. Ryan says there's nothing she can do about it since she was the only one who voted Allison apart from Telly. Later in the night, Allison sits with Kiana, explaining to her that it's evident that the two of them and Ryan could claim this huge move on Telly at Final Tribal Council. But of course, it cannot work if all three are in the finals. Kiana shrugs and says there's more they can each pitch to the jury that doesn't involve the Telly move. But, it doesn't matter to her because she at this point, she's mainly focused on her survival with this last round. Allison agrees that it's all about survival. The immunity challenge will be crucial, so chats about the vote are better off to occur post-challenge. Day 29, and everyone arrives to the challenge mat for this season's final immunity challenge. Ryan returns the necklace to Justin and Justin goes over the final challenge rules. In this, everyone will compete in a series of mini-challenges. However, there is one less available spot as they progress to the next mini-challenge. For each mini-challenge, the person who fails will be eliminated, leaving the rest to move on. At the final two, the winner will be the holder of the immunity necklace. For this first challenge, everyone will answer a question each round about the season. For each incorrect answer, a strike is received. Once someone receives 3 total strikes, they are eliminated from this entire challenge, leaving the other 3 to move on to the next mini-challenge. This mini-challenge begins, and for question 1, Allison is the only one incorrect, so she receives her first strike. For question 2, Ryan is the sole person who gets it wrong, so he gets his first strike. For question 3, Ryan is once again the only one to get it incorrect. Currently, Nicola and Kiana have 0 strikes, Allison has 1, and Ryan has 2. For the 4th question, Ryan gets it wrong once again, which means Ryan is the first person eliminated from this challenge. That leaves Kiana, Nicola, and Allison entering the next mini-challenge. For this one, each player gets 20 seconds to punch or kick the machine as many times as possible. The player with the least punches and kicks will be eliminated. Allison heads up first, and after her 20 seconds are over, she totals up to 11 punches and kicks. Nicola heads up second, and after her turn is over, it's revealed she punched and kicked her machine 12 times, just ahead of Allison. Kiana goes up last, needing more than 11 to stay in the challenge. After her time is up, she complete 14 punches and kicks, meaning Allison is the next person eliminated from the immunity challenge. For this final mini-challenge, Kiana and Nicola must balance on one leg on the tall wall. Whoever falls on the ground first will be the loser, meaning the other player will win immunity. Kiana and Nicola start up the challenge, both trying their best not to wobble around. Nicola starts to wave her hands around as she tries controlling her balance. Kiana struggles with her balance as well, going side to side with her whole body. Eventually, she falls to the ground first, injuring herself in the process, meaning Nicola has one individual immunity, safe from the vote tonight. Kiana ends up being fine, so everyone walks back to the mat and Nicola is given the necklace by Justin. Justin confirms that someone will be the final person eliminated from this game, and it won't be Nicola. Everyone is then blindsided as Justin reveals they will be forced to skip any camp time together and instead will go straight to tribal council for their vote off. Everyone has no choice but to follow through. It's night 29, and it's time for tribal council. Everyone sits down and Justin welcomes Telly as the new addition to the jury group. Justin firstly congratulates Nicola on winning such a crucial immunity challenge, and she thanks him. He asks her to describe what's going on in her head right now, knowing she's immune, and she says she's already thinking about what she could claim in Final 3. She made it to that stage yet again, but wants to actually win this time. Justin then asks her if part of her winning strategy is taking out a key person tonight, and Nicola says indeed. She knows there's one particular person here who can win the whole season based on the current jury they must face. In fact, she's willing to share her thoughts. Allison hasn't pissed people off, making her a massive jury threat. Allison squints and tells Nicola she's quite surprised that she thinks the jury will vote based on friendships. If anything, they want to vote based on gameplay. It's a second chances season after all. Kiana agrees and says that everyone should view this final vote in terms of who played the best game. Arguably, that person is Ryan because he was the king that took out his queen last vote. Ryan looks right behind him, telling Kiana that if anything, she's the biggest threat to win because she played this game almost flawlessly. She has such a strong case and story for the jury to hear. Kiana says that he has a much easier game to lay out to the jury since everyone already knows what he has done for the most part. For everyone else, it's harder to know because they've played more secretly. Justin asks Allison if she agrees with that statement that essentially these final 3 women played more secretly than Ryan, and Allison says that it's obvious Ryan was given the title of king this season. But what matters most is how you present yourself at that final tribal council. Kiana then turns to Allison, reminding her that Ryan is in law school. Ryan turns back to Kiana again and says that it doesn't matter what his profession is. A lot of the time, you can talk nonsense and a smart jury will know it. Kiana is much smoother with her words, proven by the fact that nobody has seen her as a true threat until now. Justin asks Nicola to weigh in, and Nicola still stays on Allison's neck, telling Ryan and Kiana that Allison should be their main worry and not each other. Kiana doesn't agree and says she thinks the girls have a better chance against each other. Ryan has so many locked-in jury votes, including Telly, Cindy, possibly B. Marie, and even Neil. Ryan then turns back and says Kiana also has locked-in jury votes that are much more secured. She has Rokio, Divin, Clever, and if he himself gets out tonight, his own vote. Allison breathes out and says that this is getting really intense and hard to decide. Ryan says he's still sticking his vote on Kiana. Kiana says she's not budging off of Ryan. Justin then says that it's a perfect time to get to this vote and find out who is truly going. He reminds them that if tonight's vote ties, a tiebreaker challenge will commence.
I'll tally the votes. I'll read the votes. First vote, Kiana. Ryan. 1 vote Kiana, 1 vote Ryan. Allison. We're tied, 1 vote Kiana, 1 vote Ryan, 1 vote Allison, 1 vote left. Nineteenth person voted out of Survivor Second Chances and the 8th and final member of our jury. Ryan.
Ryan smiles and gets up, while Nicola sighs in disappointment. From the jury bench, Tully frowns while Clever and B. Marie are glad a big move was made. Ryan puts his torch down. He thanks everyone for a wonderful time, including the jury. Justin snuffs his torch and Ryan heads off. Justin then congratulates the final 3 women for reaching the final part of this game. Tomorrow, they will face the jury of 8. They will be the deciders for who wins this entire season. For now, the finalists should get some rest and prepare for the big night tomorrow. Allison, Kiana, and Nicola then head back to camp. Ryan's final thoughts. Ryan isn't too surprised he got voted out. He was most likely going to win against any of the other 3 based on his quote-unquote king status. Him and Tully ran a big portion of this game, and people were threatened by that. He's actually not sure who should win at this rate since he's not fully aware of each of the finalists' games. He knows Nicola's the most, but she has been pretty messy overall. Ryan claims he's going to be an open door tomorrow night, but he also wants to press the finalists so they either crack under pressure or excel. With the final day finally here, the finalists are ready for what's to come tonight. Allison started this game on a dominant tribe. In fact, she only went to 1 pre-merge tribal council, technically voting in the majority that time. She entered the merge with a supposedly strong Okunjan alliance, and even formed the Girls' Alliance. However, things fell apart midway as she lost Cindy, one of her best allies in the game at the time. She made sure to continue working on her relationship with Ryan, one of the big players with massive sway in the game. Staying loyal to him got her to this endgame, and she managed to take out both Tully and Ryan, the king and queen of the season. Nicola's game started off a bit differently. She wasn't in the majority initially and had to float for most of the pre-swap. Then, the swap came, and thanks to her good social skills, she never received a vote at all. Not even in the merge. She managed to float between sides, having trust with so many people in the game. Nobody saw her as a threat at all, despite being closely aligned with Tully and Ryan all of merge. Of course, Nicola made mistakes here and there, but she will make sure to own up to these mistakes and explain how she maneuvered around them. Finally, with Kiana's game, she started this game as a dominant player, making moves left and right, just like her first season. It seemed like her control started falling apart by the time of the swap, but even after using an idol on Clever to build trust with them and hopefully save them, she was still in a majority. She made merge, remaining untouched for a long time. She was always Kunjan strong, yet people saw her as a very moldable player. It allowed her to keep connections with a lot of people, and she was one of the few people who saw through Tully and Ryan's gameplay. She finally got them out at Final 5 and 4, still being untouched apart from Ryan's 1 vote last night. She wants the jury to know about her full second chance story, one that deserves to be rewarded the most. All 3 of these women are strong and will do whatever they can to win the jury over. It's just a matter of who will end up victorious. We'll have to find out tonight at the final tribal council questioning and speeches. It's night 30 in the game, and the big night is finally here. The finalists face the jury of 8 who are ready to ask their questions. However, the finalists will get to make a pitch first, which will hopefully give the jury some question ideas. Allison will go first, so she begins by facing the jury and firstly thanking them for such a wonderful second chance experience. Allison mentions a very important fact about her as a player. She made Final 3 twice in a row now and is the first player in history to play this game for 60 total days. Nicola is just behind with 59 days. Allison says she's really proud that she reached Final 3 yet again, unscathed for a lot of it. She only became such a big jury threat by the end game. Even then, she flipped the script and managed to get out Telly and then Ryan. Ryan was probably the hardest for her since she had to separate her personal feelings from game. She loves Ryan to death, but she knew he was her biggest opponent going into Final 3. Throughout this game, she made sure to constantly think strategically and not emotionally. She was always in a majority and used her social game to her best potential. Even when situations were dire, she climbed right back to the top. The biggest example of this was the post-Cindy situation. She was on the bottom at first, but she kept Ryan close to her and got out of the firing line real quick. Allison ends off her speech by asking the jury to think about her own legacy. She would make a great winner because of her status in this game. She doesn't want to come third again, and she especially doesn't want second place. Justin thanks Allison and tells Kiana that she will go next. Kiana thanks Justin and tells the jury that she too has a great story this season. She came into this game as one of the few pre-jurors from her first season. She was swap-screwed her first season. She almost got swap-screwed this season as well. But, surviving that swap meant everything to her. She had so much energy in her and knew she could actually reach the end of this game. She made sure to weaken alliances at any opportunity she could. She controlled the first few Kunjan votes of the game, and then still got her way at her one swap vote. Going into Merge, she was tight with her old Kunjan people. They had no reason to flip on her, unlike some other people like Divin who did play a messy game. But despite that, she stuck with Divin and Clever at Final 10, knowing very well that they were her best numbers at that point. She needed to destroy the Cindy, B. Marie, and Allison alliance, and that she did. She had close connections with Telly and Neil, and after their whole drama, she had to pick a side. She of course went with Neil, having a Final 2 with him since the beginning. Telly's Final 2 was Ryan, so she couldn't take her. Of course, Telly got her way, but not for long as there was a lot of plotting in the background to ensure Telly would go home eventually. She made sure people felt threatened by her, and then at Final 4, she made sure Ryan was seen as the biggest threat. She beat a law student at the live tribal council. Kiana tells the jury that she hopes they consider how epic her second chance has been, being in such a dominant position early on to have really strong early connections with Kunjan, and then taking a back seat in Merge to plant a lot of seeds to decimate opposing alliances. Justin thanks Kiana and then moves on to Nicola finally. Nicola smiles and tells the jury that Allison was right about one thing. She did play 60 days while she herself only played for 59 days. But, Allison didn't have to go to as many tribal councils. In fact, Survivor Japan had a Final 2, and not 3. She reached Final 3 fair and square and got out due to the final challenge loss. However, this time, she ensured her own spot in the finals, winning final immunity and confirming her spot here. Knowing all of this, she started this game off a bit quiet. She didn't want to come in guns blazing because that's not the type of player she is. She also didn't want to stand out as a great social player. She tried blending in as much as possible and it worked, receiving 0 votes throughout this whole game. She played both sides successfully for majority of the game and was the swing vote in many scenarios. Some people might not like players who play both sides, but she did it in a way that was much more respectable. She built genuine connections with people, and that still stands despite the gameplay that occurred. She stayed loyal to her true allies, those being Telly and Ryan. Of course, she took a shot at Telly pre-merge, but she realized she needed her in this game as her shield. That's why at Final 8, Telly was the one in trouble. Even Ryan showed his cards a lot and came to be known as Telly's king. However, she herself was untouched. She still worked with Telly and Ryan to use them as shields. That's why she wanted Ryan in Final 3. He wasn't always the one in control of decisions. Her own vote mattered much more to him. With that, she hopes the jury can consider her gameplay respectable and look at the fact that she never received a vote in this entire game. Justin thanks the finalists for their speeches and then turns to the jury, telling them that each of them will get to give a question to one of the players of their choice. Alternatively, they can choose to instead just give a pitch to all 3 finalists to poke at their games or compliment them. With that, Rokio will go first as the first juror, so he heads up to the front. His question is for Kiana, asking her to state one thing from both Allison and Nicola's speeches that she noted as inconsistent based on what actually happened in the game. Kiana smiles and says she noticed both of them talk about how long they survived in both of their seasons, but this is season 6, not 4 and not 5. Days do not matter at this stage. They each played 30 days of this season. Therefore, she thinks they focused much more on their days rather than their gameplay this season, unlike herself who pointed at all of her stages in this game. Rokio thanks Kiana and wishes her luck. He sits down, allowing Divin to go up next. He smiles at the finalists and says he just wants to comment on his perception of each of their games. He starts with Allison, telling her that she did not focus on her social game in the merge at all. She barely bonded with many of the Kunjins like him. She failed to build trust with Rokio, an Exo Kunjin. She was also mentioned as a target many times, but those plans never went through either because of new plans or because she won immunity. As for Nicola, he noticed her talk about playing both sides. He actually agrees with this but would like her to talk more about why she wanted Telly and Ryan in this game for so long and what made her think they still had trust with her despite her flipping on them at multiple occasions. Finally, with Kiana, he likes what he's hearing so far, but he needs more juice from her. He wants the meat and potatoes along with the gravy. He wishes all 3 luck and tells them he's still up in the air tonight. Divin then sits down and Cindy heads up next. She stands there silently and holds up 2 fingers. She then puts her hand down and faces the jury. She tells them that Nicola played her twice. She didn't want to vote for her to win in Japan, and she does not want to vote for her tonight. She doesn't respect flip-flop gameplay, and that's what Nicola had. At this moment, she feels like she knows Allison and Kiana much more in terms of their respectable gameplay, but Nicola was anything but respectable. Cindy then sits back down, leaving a cold mist in the air for the finalists. Justin then calls up Neil and he faces the finalists. He asks Nicola why she flipped on him at Final 8 to work with Ryan and Telly, and he doesn't want her to say they were her shields. He wants other reasons. Nicola happily discusses her view on the game at that time. She knew he was very close to B. Marie and Cindy from Final 9. She was part of that Cindy blindside, and he flipped after finding out about it last second. Then, she knew he had to go because Kiana was growing way too close to him, based on what she saw. Plus, B. Marie was staying completely loyal to him. She had a better future without him, and it worked out because she reached Final 3 unscathed. Neil thanks her for the answer and heads back to his seat. B. Marie then heads up next and she asks Allison when she thinks her name first came up as a possible target in this game. Allison thinks for a bit and says she thinks it was around the time of Final 10 when she won immunity, causing Cindy to be a secondary plan. B. Marie keeps a straight face, telling her that she's way off. In fact, she was talked about as a target day 1 because she was known as a sneaky player right off the bat. Her name also came up in the swap, even before Brooke was a full-on target just based on her own actions. This is just to show the jury that Allison didn't receive votes until the end game based on circumstantial stuff. She didn't realize people were after her pre-merge, which could have costed her the game if she went to more tribal councils. She wasn't as trustworthy, hence why nobody saw her as a ride-or-die figure. Not even Cindy. Cindy squints though from the jury bench, not really agreeing with B. Marie's claim, but nevertheless, B. Marie sits back down after her little speech about Allison. Clever then heads up next for their question. They ask Kiana if she ever lied about her loyalty to anyone in this game at any point. Kiana smiles and tells Clever that she knows they are all about loyalty in this game, and she's happy to say that she never had to lie to her close allies that she constantly spoke with. She never flipped on Clever, she never flipped on Neil, she never flipped on Sam early on, and the list pretty much goes on. It even comes down to these two girls next to her. She never considered voting them out at any stage, and they knew that, so they never voted her back. Whenever she had a target in her sights, she never promised them anything. Her 2 total votes this season came from a woman who physically fought her on day 8, and Ryan, who knew she was voting for him to go. Clever tells Kiana that she forgot she voted them out at Final 6. Her not mentioning that right now could cost their vote for her, but they'll wait and see what Nicola has to say if she gets a question. Clever sits back down and Kiana sighs in reaction to Clever's claim. Telly is then up next, and she smiles at Nicola, firstly stating that she's very much leaning towards voting her to win. She also hopes the other jurors follow despite their different opinions on her. With that, her question is for Nicola, asking her to list her top 3 moves this season that got her to Final 3. Nicola states the most obvious one, which was staying very close to Telly and Ryan in the merge despite almost breaking complete trust with Telly at the Josie vote off. Her second top move was cutting Cindy and Neil at Final 9 and 8, playing a key role in that vote since Telly and Ryan knew they could rely on her for those blindsides. Thirdly, she made sure she was Telly's right-hand girl in the swap, allowing her to trust her with plans to flip on Bane and then Sam. If she wasn't so close to Telly, she wouldn't have been told of Bane's 2 idols, which would have meant he would stay and she or Sam would go home at the first swap vote. Telly quickly claps for her and says she's proud of her and hopes she wins tonight. Nicola thanks her and Telly sits back down in her seat. Ryan is then up last and he straight up says he's very much up in the air between 2 people. He's between Allison and Nicola. Since Nicola just had her moment, he'd like to ask Allison to own up to one mistake she made in this game and how she bounced back from that mistake. Allison thinks back to the swap, mentioning how she didn't feel super secure for most of it. But she then took action to create an alliance with the women, something she had experience with from Season 5, though that time she was part of one and didn't really create one purposely. She works really well with strong women, so she had B. Marie and Cindy as her right-hand people in the end stage of the swap. She then created an alliance to invite all the women, minus Brooke, who was obviously a wild card that couldn't be trusted. The alliance also included Ryan since the 2 of them had a close connection since day 1. The fact that she made these key alliances and relationships allowed her to get through many votes on the top. Maybe not every woman thought the alliance was good enough for their game, but not a single person went home in that alliance for 4 straight votes in the merge. Ryan grins and says he wishes all 3 finalists the best of luck, and he sits back down. Justin thanks the jury and the finalists for such a great night, and he says it'll all come to an end soon. The jury will need to now vote for a winner, and then he'll reveal those votes. He tells the jury to think carefully before they cast their votes, and they all nod. With that, it is time to get to this final vote to see who will be crowned the title of Sole Survivor.
I'll go get the votes. Alright everyone, I have the 8 jury votes with me. And with that, I think it would be much more exciting if I reveal the votes right now. I'll read the votes. First vote. Nicola. Allison. That's 1 vote Nicola, 1 vote Allison. Kiana. 1 vote Nicola, 1 vote Allison, 1 vote Kiana. Nicola. 2 votes Nicola. Allison. We're tied, 2 votes Nicola, 2 votes Allison, 1 vote Kiana. Kiana. Tied again. 2 votes each. Nicola. That's 3 votes Nicola, 2 votes Allison, 2 votes Kiana. 1 vote left. The winner of Survivor Second Chances. No one as the last vote is for Kiana. Here is how this will work. In the event of a tie at the final tribal vote, the third place finalist will have the deciding vote now. This means Allison, you will need to head up to the voting booth and vote for either Kiana or Nicola to win this season. Allison, you may now head up with the urn and cast your vote. I'll get Allison's vote. I will now read the final vote. The winner of Survivor Second Chances. Kiana. Congratulations to you, Kiana. You are the official Second Chance legend who survived and won over the jury votes. Thank you all for such a great season. We will be back for a 7th season in the coming months. For now, we are signing out from Season 6. I will see you next time.